I have the Gen Z generation now. And
You do, my kids are both Gen Z.
I'm set for life now, and it's like, it's unbelievable.
Welcome, Matthew Modine.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Newsweek Conversations. We're
45 million people watching. How could I not be here?
Hey, that's the number of people that visit our website, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'd love to start our conversation today just with where you started. How did you start? It's such a hard industry to break into. Like, what did you do? That may seem like a long time ago, or maybe it seems like yesterday.
Oh my
but
God.
How did you make that work?
My father was a drive-in theater manager, and we moved to Utah because he became a general manager of a group of drive-in theaters and a couple movie theaters, and it was kind of my first brush with stardom. Robert Redford came to my father's theater, and I was just a little boy, and I met him. He seemed like a very reasonable, nice man, and I was impressed. So the things that I saw in the movies I thought were real. I thought they were documentary.
Really?
That Clint Eastwood was really Dirty Harry, and then wait a minute, wow, he's a cowboy too. He's in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and that's very confusing. And I saw Sean Connery in all those James Bond movies, and then I saw him in Darby O'Gill and The Little People, and he was singing, and it was very confusing. And then I saw a documentary about the making of Oliver, the Richard Lester film, and with I can't remember his name, Mark. I can't remember the boy's name, but in the documentary, it showed them singing and dancing, and that they weren't just kids that knew how to sing and dance. They were learning to sing and dance, and I thought, oh, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So in about 5th grade, I started lying about being an actor and telling people, because I could lie because of my dad's connection to the movies, because of the movie theaters and the drive-ins, that they believed me. It was Utah. And so they were kind of gullible.
The center of all entertainment.
Yeah, and they believed that he must have a connection. It all kind of, it was kind of a foggy, easy thing to make people believe that I was somehow connected to the movie business. But while I was working in the cleaning toilet stage, my dad told me I had to get into the snack bar to clean up because the bathroom toilets were overflowing. Somebody had flushed something down the toilet, and all of this horror was coming out of the toilets and was all over it was disgusting. And I had the bucket and the handle that you wring the mop out with to start cleaning up this mess. And I didn't know where to begin because it was so much mess. It was like an inch deep of horror. And my dad came up to me, put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, I know. He said, it's a mess. He said, you can get angry about it, you can go try to find the person responsible, but it's not going to clean it up. And it was an important lesson because I heard what he was saying, is that when there's a problem in the world, you can try to find the people that are responsible, you can get angry, but you have to clean it up. And it made such an important impression on me as an environmentalist, as a citizen, as a person of the citizen, not just of the United States, but of the world, that when we see problems, we can get angry about it, we can point the finger, but you have to take personal responsibility and clean the mess up. So it was an important step in the education of my young mind. So I moved to New York.
You did?
So and I got a job working in a restaurant. I went in to get a job being a waiter because it was a really good place with tips. And he goes, I ain't putting you on my floor, get in the kitchen. And I became the salad man, then the pastry chef, the sous chef, and then I became the chef. And I was full of myself as chefs, as they do, kind of angry, mean, telling people what to do.
It's a very desirable profession now.
Yeah. And I had my white jacket, I had my checkered pants, and the waiter came in and he asked me to make a dish to go for this customer. And I said, I'm not making it. It would be all soggy and nasty. I think it was fish en baguette, as my memory serves me. It's fish cooked in parchment paper.
Yeah.
And it's about the presentation is a big part of it, and he said he wanted it to go. I said, I'm not making it. And no, she's a really good customer. I said, I don't care what she is, I'm not making it to go. He goes, no. I said, you're afraid to tell her? I'll tell her. And I walked out of the kitchen to go tell this girl to get out of my restaurant. And there was this beautiful Puerto Rican girl with really short hair, with slick back and burgundy leather pants and a sexy heel, a turtleneck. And I looked at her and I said, how many do you want? and I was saving my money at the time to go to drama school, and we started dating, and we're still married to this day.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Yeah, so she's been with me through all the trials and tribulations. She's my partner, she's my best friend, you know, confidant. You know, everything that you could hope for from another person, she is. And most importantly, that when you say you're going to be an actor and you haven't done anything, there's nothing to validate, because there's nothing tangible. You just, I'm an actor, but what have you done? I haven't done anything. Oh, you're that kind of actor, and the conversation ends and people walk away from you. Yeah. And it's kind of humiliating. And when I told her that I was studying to be an actor, she went, oh, you'll be very successful. And it was sometimes, like Malcolm Gladwell wrote that book, The Tipping Point. Yeah. Sometimes it just takes somebody giving you. I did another movie called Orphans with Albert Finney, and in the play he says, you know, sometimes people just need an encouraging hug. Yeah. They just need a little belief in you. And she supplied me with a belief that was beyond my own ideas of who I was as a human being, and gave me that encouragement to go the next level.
And as you said, she did all of that before you were ever in a movie. Yeah. Right? Yeah. All of that belief. Yeah. And you're still with it. It was just an incredible. I mean, I want to give you a hug at this point. So one of the things you said that you were inspired by was that your father said, you know, you could go look for someone to blame, but if it's a mess, you just got to go clean up that mess. Yeah. Which is sort of a little bit like the story of Miss Virginia.
Yes.
Right? So this is a woman who, you know, her son was in trouble. It was a mess. And she could have gone and just been protesting, but no, she decided to try and clean that mess up, which is sort of very powerful story. How did you sort of first hear about the film, and how did you get involved in it?
I felt that, you know, having grown up in the 60s and, you know, loved the Kennedys, you know, I remember when John Kennedy was assassinated, even though I was a little boy, I remember the profound impact that his murder, the death, had on the collective consciousness of America. And then the inspiration of the 60s and the promise of the 60s, the peace and love, and what Robert Kennedy represented and what Dr. Martin Luther King represented. Because I was growing up in San Diego, I felt Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, that these people who saw injustice, saw unfairness and inequality, and wanted to do something to be impactful. And so when I read the script, I said, what if Dr. Martin Luther King hadn't been murdered and gave up? That it was just too hard. The civil rights movement was just too hard. And Robert Kennedy just said, I want to be president of the United States, but it's just too hard. I give up. In politics, it's like running into a wall. And this guy gave up. This guy was somebody who wanted to change the world. And then politics beat him up, and he gave up. And that's what. So we picked a costume that looked like he stopped buying clothes in the 1980s. So everything's just a little bit, ill-fitting and too short and worn and tattered. And
is he based on an actual character, or is just?
He is based on an actual, but not my character.
Your character is not based.
No, and I thought he was kind of like a Connecticut Yankee. Yeah. And so for me, the most profound Connecticut Yankee was Katharine Hepburn. And Katharine had a very fast way the way she spoke her dialogue. Yeah. She spoke very quickly and articulated words, you know, that's not, it doesn't matter, you know, it doesn't matter what you think, you're going to lose. Yeah. And she had this kind of cadence and everything. So I thought I like that. And so
Katharine worked in the movie.
Katharine Hepburn was my inspiration for playing this character, and the clothes, and then just, you know, those people that I looked up to from my childhood, that what if they hadn't been murdered, and what if they'd given up? And so he was somebody who was ready to fight that. And then with Miss Virginia, Uzo is a force of nature.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a volcano. She's an incredibly powerful person, and portraying this real life Miss Virginia, who is an incredible powerhouse. I just had the pleasure of meeting her on Friday night.
What was that like? I mean, you'd already done the movie. You're at a screening with her, right? That's how you met her. So was she like the script? Was she different? What was?
She's like a really very calm, but unbelievably smart, and not some force of nature that you could stop. It would be like trying to throw a lasso around a tornado. That she'd just drag you across the country.
So one of the things that I find fascinating about this movie, and just so that everybody who's listening knows, the Miss Virginia character befriends your character, and they try and get all this legislation through together, right?
Yeah.
Is that when you see the movie, and I'm not going to have any spoilers here, but you really, it's a very, I want to say it's a very sort of left-wing, happy sort of, here's this woman who's from a lower economic group, a single mother, black woman, who takes on the system, and for all of the things that we love, by doing the right thing, etc., wins. And yet, you had to fight Democrats in Washington to make it. It was signed by George Bush. She's a Republican. Did you guys get into that at all? Do you have any sort of feelings about that? Or
no, we didn't talk politics at all. I would love to have that conversation with her, because you said you saw a film that I made, To Kill an American.
Yes.
Or another one, Jesus Was a Commie.
Yep.
And the film Jesus Was a Commie has a purposely provocative title. It's not really about Jesus or communism, but it's about the hypocrisy that exists within our country, and the problems that exist in the sense that the environmental, the problems that we face, the economic inequality and disparity that exists in the country, these are problems that can't be solved by a left or a right, or a Republican or a Democrat or a Christian. These are problems that we have to solve, like picking up that mop and cleaning the poop up off the floor at the drive-in. That you can get mad, you can point the finger, you can get it done.
Fix it.
And I would love to talk to Miss Virginia to understand more about an African American woman being a Republican in this climate.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, from sitting here, but it would be interesting to find out what it is about the Republican Party and the values of the Republican Party that she holds dear.
Yeah. My kids love Stranger Things. They just love it. They hate you.
Yeah. They don't hate me. Just for clarification, they hate the character that I play.
Yes. No, that's what I meant. Yeah. Of course, that's what I meant.
Because that does hurt a little bit from people when they tweet to me or Instagram, they say they hate me, and I've straightened a lot of them out. I say, you hate and now they send me heart emojis and say that they love me but they hate Dr. Brenner.
But my guess is, and this was the question, is so I know you've gone to places like Comic-Con and you've been Dr. Brenner and you've signed cards and you even.
I have a Topps baseball card.
You have a baseball card, right? Yeah. Never mind. I know you've won a lot of awards, but I'm sorry, but the baseball card.
It's crazy.
That's way more fun, I think.
It's cuckoo. You would think that they would make a Topps baseball card for 11 or Hopper's character, but they made one of Dr. Brenner, and I'm smiling. It's a baseball card where I'm smiling, so it's even weirder that I sort of look like a nice guy, and somebody from Star Wars. Those are the two characters from shows that they made, and maybe in the last.
So isn't that sort of a?
It's an incredible honor. There's Dark Horse comic books. I'm on the cover of about 7 Dark Horse comic books. The subject of those comic books. There's a book that's out. that was published when I'm on the cover of the book, and it's about Dr. Brenner and those people that came before 11, 1 through 10.
And so the question is, so you've been in so many films and you've been so well received and you've had lots of fans, but the Stranger Things fans are a little different. They're part of this other sort of subculture. How is that? I mean, do they just welcome you as an evil character? You've played other sort of your Batman character in the Batman.
Does who welcome me as an evil?
The fan base.
The fan base. Well, that's the wonderful thing about this show is it gave me another generation. I captured another audience. So what you have to do all the time in this business is to remain relevant.
Yeah.
And so Stranger Things has given me, for those young, it's even beyond Gen X. It's I don't know what they call those people now. There's millennials, Gen X, and what the Greta's Gen Z.
Yeah.
And I love those guys. They're such extraordinary, interesting people when you speak to them. I teach acting classes all the time, and I've had the pleasure of working with them, and their perspective on life and their urgency, their sense of self-awareness is so different than when I was a child. Incredibly bright. I just don't know what's going to happen. I don't know that it's something bad. It will certainly be something different. My wife always reminds me of that every day when you wake up, that one thing that you can be assured of is that the world will be a little bit different than it was yesterday. Yeah. And so you can't try to stop that change. That's like trying to stop the tide coming in. You can't. It's too big. The ocean's too big, and this transition that we're going through right now is who knows what it's going to be. So what's important is to always, like this film, is to provide people with education, and that's a good way to go through life. Is to always be trying to draw out stuff from inside of yourself and from other people, to listen in a conversation, so that I'm learning as much about you in this conversation as I am about myself. Yeah. That's ideal.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
It's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
I think everyone should go see the movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Miss Virginia in theaters, coming soon.